How to break yourself free from limerence in a relationships. Have you ever found yourself obsessively thinking about someone? Someone you barely know, someone unavailable, or someone who gives you just enough attention to keep you hooked? You replay every moment. You analyze every message. You imagine a love story that feels more real than reality itself. And deep down, you know you're hurting. You know this isn't love, but you can't stop. If that's you, take a breath. Because today, we're breaking chains. Welcome to today's episode, How to Break Yourself Free from Limerence, Understanding the Trap, Escaping the Fantasy, and Reclaiming Your Emotional Freedom. This is not just information. This is your turning point. Stay with me. Understanding and Overcoming Limerence, a comprehensive guide. Limerence is a powerful and often poorly understood psychological state. It is essentially a form of love addiction, where obsessive thinking and feelings of longing overwhelm the rational mind, and where there might be a particularly strong need for reciprocity. When we experience this attachment to another, it is often to an imaginary version of them, formed to fit our idealized narrative. We then become limerent on the person so created, the limerent object in psychologists' language, experiencing ups and downs that have a profound negative effect on well-being and mental health. The task of navigating a path toward recovery from limerence then becomes a crucial process of accepting the psychology of grandiose idealization and falling love, of confronting barriers to acceptance and change, and learning strategies that will allow us to grow into better selves while creating and maintaining healthier relationships. This guide provides a practical 13-step framework for understanding and then moving beyond limerence, seeking a path toward better mental health. Step 1. Recognize limerence for what it is. Identification is the first step to overcoming limerence, and this means understanding it for what it really is: a toxic, unreciprocated, and unrequited form of attachment, something that is not the same as true romantic love. In both romantic love and limerence, there's certainly infatuation, but there are very specific, consistent differences between the two. In romantic love, for instance, someone may think about another person often, but those thoughts will be balanced. In limerence, there's an obsessive fixation, which overrides someone's better judgment and robs them of their sense of self. In romantic love, the emotional highs and lows that come naturally with attraction can and should be smoothed out and balanced by side-to-side love. In limerence, those highs and lows are exclusive, and the roller coaster ride dictates a person's moods and behavior, even when she or he may show otherwise. In romantic love, you value the good qualities in another person and disregard the aspects that aren't so appealing. In limerence, since there's no aspect of reciprocity, what you value about someone else spirals into a false, yet deeply felt, judgment of self-worth. What you dislike in those you can't reciprocate with turns into a denigration of that person, rather than what it really needs to be and should be. An understanding of why this person, despite the potential, isn't for you. For example, if you obsessively think about someone and can't get him or her out of your mind, this overwhelming fixation is likely to be limerence, rather than love, because your negative health, safety, or purpose is indicated if something cannot be gotten out of your mind. During the first stage of the cycle, naturally or artificially, mirror neurons can become overtuned. Step 2. Get realistic about the situation. After you've admitted to yourself you're experiencing limerence, the next step is to be truthful about the prospect of a nourishing, balanced relationship with your limerent object. Is it a possibility? If you're not in the capacity to approach an acquaintance, friend, or confidant to evaluate your chances, try addressing the feelings directly to the target. You'll likely find some solid ground for reality testing, and likely that uncomfortable ground is necessary to get your feet back beneath you. Step 3. Understand and accept the pain. Acknowledging the pain of limerence is key to being able to move through it. The unloved and unrequited limerent can be left feeling inadequate and rejected. Speaking of an unreciprocated crush, finally, I could talk about the pain of being so close and yet so sufficiently distant to only be allowed a squinting glance. As shown by Swan, remember to accept the pain and grieve the loss of an imagined relationship as part of breaking your limerent loop. As Swan said on another site about the painful healing of limerence, you need to practically get angry at yourself or your relationship, cry, scream, and post on some message board where everyone cheers you on. Doing this opens you to allowing realistic dreams. Step 4. Focus on self-care and self-compassion. Limerence is a dreadful state to feel trapped in, and self-care, physical and psychological, is an act that demands prioritization. If you can exercise, build in exercise. If you can pursue a hobby, do so. If you can spend more time with loved ones, do so. If you can pursue a new, positive relationship, do so. Treat yourself in a way that is respectful, non-exploitative, and kind in the same way you'd treat a friend. When times feel at their direst, focus your energy on self-care, so that you recover more quickly from being caught in limerence, and so that you feel motivated to do something about it. The bedrock of self-care can enable you to escape from limerence. Step 5. Establish healthy boundaries. Boundaries are also crucial to getting out of limerence. Decreasing or even avoiding contact with the limerent object is often necessary to create an emotional space that allows for healing. It might be necessary to stop any physical interactions, and even to limit online interactions, should these reinforce obsessive thinking. By putting boundaries around the relationship, you can create space that is away from the grips of limerent emotion and allows for reconnection through higher and more stable regions of emotion. Step 6. Engage in new social activities. Another way to redirect limerent energy is to increase your socialization. Try taking up new hobbies, joining clubs, or engaging in other activities of interest to you. Not only will these social activities take your mind off your limerent object, but they may also afford you the opportunity to meet new people and make new connections. If you have more friends, you're less likely to focus on the limerent object continuously. Initiating more social connections will also prevent you from isolating yourself. Step 7. Seek professional help. If you find limerence too difficult to handle, a counselor or therapist can help. You can unpack your feelings and identify causal factors in a safe environment, and learn strategies to help you cope in the meantime. A therapist can support you in reflecting on your relationship dynamics, help you identify and resolve old painful attachments through trauma-focused therapy, and begin the important process of changing long-standing patterns in the pursuit of healthier relationships. Step 8. Develop mindfulness and emotional awareness. Another important strategy is to be a mindful observer of your own thoughts and emotions, which will help you reduce the intensity of obsessive limerent thinking. Regular meditation and breathing exercises calm the amygdala and help you pay attention to and acknowledge your emotions, as well as maintaining focus on the present moment, rather than becoming swept away by fantasies about the LO. Literally taking time to pause and breathe can act as a braking mechanism, reducing the strength of the limerent pathway. A journal is a great tool to record initial resistances, emerge fear and regret, and interpret them cognitively. Finally, as you practice mindfulness, you'll gain resilience and heightened emotional self-regulation. Step 9. Reflect on relationship patterns. It might be helpful to look back at past relationships and delve into your attachment style as a means of gaining a better understanding of why you might be vulnerable to limerence. Looking back at past relationships can help to pinpoint triggers that contribute to an unhealthy attachment, or identify trends that tell you whether your relationship history makes you more likely to suffer from an obsessive cycle. Through this knowledge, you can consciously make decisions about future relationships that move you away from unhealthy attachments and towards more balanced romantic relationships. Step 10. Set realistic relationship goals. A realistic relationship wish list is in order. If your relationship dreams aren't realistic, what is your alternative? Don't start searching for Mr. or Miss Right, thinking that he or she looks like a blonde or brunette young star in a magazine. Don't idealize potential partners, thinking that they are perfect in any way. Likewise, don't put him or her on a pedestal. Instead, find Mr. or Mrs. Good Enough, someone who cares and with whom you have similar values, someone who you don't resent giving your heart to, someone who will treat you with respect. That's all there is, and that's enough. From that grounding, you can build healthy and satisfying relationships based on respect, trust, compatibility, and mutuality, not unrealistic fantasies. Realistic expectations set the stage for healthy, stable relationships based on realistic grounds, where you and your partner can understand each other. Step 11. Practice patience and persistence. There are no quick fixes. The last vestiges of limerence can take months to fade, and you can expect to have bad days and some setbacks along the way. When you struggle to stick to your plan to stay away at times, don't punish yourself. It's natural. Just remind yourself to start over. If you manage to achieve small goals, such as not texting the LO for a day or two, don't underestimate the value of those gains, especially when they seem negligible. Persisting in your efforts can strengthen your ability to manage limerent thoughts and feelings, thus enabling you to make slight but cumulative steps in the pursuit of well-being. Step 12. Foster healthy relationships. But be sure to avoid negative people and stay away from those who drain you. Instead, spend your time with supportive, positive individuals who foster a safe environment where you can build healthy relationships. These positive individuals help you rebalance your emotional status and rebuild a robust social foundation. Limerence will pass, and once you recover, you'll be re-energized, have newfound insights, and feel stronger connections to people who treat and cherish you. Step 13. Embrace personal growth. Second, surrender to the growth process of going through limerence. Think about what this experience has taught you about who you are, what you need, and how you typically attach to others. Moving through the experience into a deeper sense of self can lead to a greater sense of being emotionally resilient, available for relationship, and more fulfilled overall in both your life and your connections. If you are willing to learn from your experience, then you are already building stronger relationships with others for the future, based on healthier levels of attachment and understanding of love. Facing rejection. Confronting unrequited feelings. There is something heartbreaking in the way that obsessive feeling leads to desperately clinging to the hope of reciprocation, even when disallowed. Facing up to the inevitability of rejection by asking directly, when possible, or astutely recognizing that your cry of entreaty is not having the effect on your ardent object that you had hoped or expected, is a great unsticker. You might find it painful to stare into the void of your beloved's eyes and know that they will remain unchanged by your gaze, but it's a powerful way of sorting matters. The power of direct confrontation. You might consider confronting your emotions by telling the limerent object directly, if this is appropriate, because that almost inevitably then leads to one of two outcomes. Either the object reciprocates, actually forming the basis for a real relationship, or they don't, which breaks the hope and despair cycle. Confronting reality is hard in any case, but when it comes to a limerence, it can be vital to the process of recovery. Handling rejection. As painful as rejection may be, it can also deliver clarity. A definitive refusal removes potential reciprocity from the equation. With the limerent fantasy demoted, some people wonder if they'll be able to process rejection without tangible closure, or even see the potential in the friendship, now devoid of their romanticized view of it. Rebuilding confidence, after setbacks and harmful rumination, can be difficult, but asking themselves questions about the experience and telling loved ones how they are feeling can make the process feel less frightening. Moving forward and building healthier relationships. When you've come to terms with your feelings, concentrate on self-love and self-care. Try to rebuild your shattered self-esteem and use the time you had devoted to thinking about your love object to explore new social possibilities. The best way to avoid pursuing limerence in the future is to build up some internal tables that will allow you to engage with others in a non-depressed way and to create social connections grounded in mutual respect. As a result, you'll probably be able to engage in a serious relationship whenever you're ready, without the obsession, and with a strong sense of self-worth and self-love. When you can let go of the limerence and attune your life to self-love, you will give yourself a much better chance of leading a satisfying and emotionally healthy life going forward. Choosing appropriate partners. Realistic selection. Obsessive infatuation, or limerence, involves the same evasive strategies and is just as hard to escape. To replace limerence, we need to fundamentally change the selection of sexual partners we seek out, not just their availability, but whether they're looking for the same things as us. It's possible to reshape romantic relationships to be realistic and bring an end to aimless infatuations. Here is how to pick someone realistically. 1. Ask yourself what qualities you're looking for in a partner. Humans prioritize different characteristics in their ideal mates. Some focus on traits that indicate a high level of investment, such as ambition or intelligence. Others value evidence of a good sense of humor or positive emotional outlook. Figure out what you're looking for. 2. Pick a relationship model that accommodates the kind of relationship you desire. Every form of intimacy complicates the relationship cost-benefit analysis. What you gain from attraction and attachment needs to compensate for the time, money, and effort you invest in your partner. There isn't a single ratio for all models of sexual relationships. Commitment provides more stability. whereas serial monogamy involves more instability and anxiety. Understanding limerence is typically characterized by intense, yearning, idealistic longing for someone who is not accessible, such as a person who is already taken, totally uninterested or otherwise unavailable, and driven by wish-fulfilling fantasy to the exclusion of realism. It often leads people to miss out on better chances of forming stable, healthy relationships. You may be attracted to someone who is much more successful or famous or gorgeous or impossibly desirable than you, or who has a history of chaotic relationships. Maybe you can't see the negative aspects of this person you're fixating on, and can't see the better partners who might be more available to you. The shift in perspective. Escape from limerence requires taking a quite different approach to choosing partners, including a break with the preference for those who seem daring and unattainable, and focusing instead on those who are actually interested in a mature, reciprocal relationship. Here are some ways to make this shift possible. 1. Identify genuine interest. Seek partners who express ongoing interest in you and in a relationship, even if they aren't quite the same ideal you envisioned. Your reality will probably fall somewhere in between. Also, seek a partner you respect and who respects you in return. That way the relationship won't just be a habit that fades away because you needed something temporary. 2. Assess compatibility. Evaluate compatibility. What really matters is whether the person you are dating meshes with your values, lifestyle, and aspirations. Compatibility typically has much less to do with physical attractiveness or social status than with a deep understanding of each other's needs and values. 3. Recognize availability. Find partners who are truly available, unattached, and emotionally ready to be involved with someone else. And if you're not willing to take risks, don't be with someone who brings high drama and an array of troubled relationship history. Usually, these are the relationships that prove the most unstable of all. Confronting the challenge. Making this shift from impossible partners of fantasy to your more realistic alternatives can be daunting. Limerence can transform someone incompatibly flawed into a fantasized paragon. Here are some guidelines for getting beyond this. 1. Acknowledge your patterns. Take a look at past partners and try to notice if there are attractive individuals who are always just out of reach in some way. Making yourself aware of these patterns can help you to steer clear of them in the future and avoid repeating the same mistakes. 2. Embrace realism. We need to accept that every member of the opposite sex, or the same if that's your persuasion, who looks dashing and charismatic, does not also make an appropriate mate. Instead, we need to figure out what we need from a partner and reach out to someone who can provide that and is interested in making an investment for the long run. 3. Prioritize mutual commitment. Look for someone who demonstrates a serious investment in the possibility of a relationship. You need to dig beneath the desire for quick attention and superficial charm in order to find a man or woman who wants to cultivate you the way a gardener would cultivate a plant. Practical steps for finding realistic partners. To find partners who are available, compatible, and genuinely interested, take these actionable steps. 1. Expand your social circle. Socialize, join groups, and participate in community events so that you can meet a greater variety of people, and therefore increase your likelihood of finding someone who is looking for something similar to what you are seeking. 2. Be open to different possibilities. Don't limit yourself to a particular type or ideal. Instead, when you keep your mind and heart open to different personalities and backgrounds, you'll be surprised at the rewarding relationships you can build. 3. Communicate your intentions. When dating, be clear about where you want to go and why you want to go there. As in the dating image above, honesty attracts those who are looking for the same thing and acts as a firewall to the people who aren't. 4. Evaluate relationship dynamics. Look out for how they manage relationships. Does your date spend time trying to determine whether you will be interested in them or are keen to meet your needs, show respect or interest? How they manage relationships can give you good clues as to how someone might work in a partnership. Shifting relationship dynamics. Selecting interested partners. In this context, limerence can push someone toward this kind of endless monologue in which a specific person appears in a constant light that prevents any assessment of that person as a potential friend or partner, or as simply a real human being. A more strategic approach to relationship making can give limerence greater chances of finding less ideal mates and forming healthier relationships. Here is how a limerent person might systematize their process. 1. Choose partners who show genuine interest. Make sure you focus on people who are reliable, who are consistent in both interest and effort. They're not the most exciting people out there, but they're not going to melt away. And they're reliable. Stability versus instability. Reciprocity versus exploitation. These are key components of any successful relationship. 2. Avoid the trap of perfection. Perfection is a fantasy, seductive because it could somehow grant us everything we want. Relying on the idea of the perfect partner means that even when we find someone, our alarm bells will inevitably begin to ring. So rather than believing that you'll meet your soulmate, think instead about people with whom you can identify significant alignment between your values and your goals, even if they are fallible. It is good, real, and probabilistic relationships that are constructed around shared goals, not fantasy objects. 3. Opt for a higher level of interest. Pick a partner who is slightly more interested in you than you are in her, which has been shown to reduce obsessiveness by reducing limerence anxiety, partly because such a person makes you feel secure enough to be able to enjoy the connection. Setting boundaries and managing expectations. Expectations and boundaries must be both explicit and temperate in order to separate us from romantic idealizations and move towards healthier relationships. 1. Define your relationship goals. Be clear about what you want from a relationship and use those criteria to make your choices, and constantly revisit your goals to keep yourself on track and out of pie-in-the-sky infatuations. 2. Limit fantasy time. You can also set limits around the amount of time you let your thoughts wander to the person. For example, you might say to yourself, I can allow myself to daydream or fantasize about him for 15 minutes, but then we have to stop and refocus on reality. 3. Prioritize long-term relationships. Make sure that you partner with someone who is also looking for a relationship that will not end anytime soon, especially if limerence is a particular problem for you. While non-monogamous and casual relationships can work, they are more likely to provoke limerence because they introduce greater uncertainty and the potential for unmet expectations. 4. Set and enforce boundaries. When someone mentions a red flag or bad behavior, express your concern, but don't overreact. Instead, set your boundaries in advance. If those warnings recur, put your foot down and run. That's respecting yourself. When someone demonstrates one or more of these tendencies, you have the power to set a boundary. That's the essence of a healthy relationship. 5. Practice quick exit strategies. Learn to set and hold your standards, and to walk away from people or the situation if it isn't up to scratch. When you hold your own uncaringly, you protect your heart from misdirected loops of love because you are out and free again, vulnerable to better relationships. Building healthy relationship dynamics. To create a solid foundation in your relationships, focus on these principles. 1. Embrace realistic expectations. Moving away from ideals and towards real people helps you build relationships based on mutual respect and concrete, achievable shared goals. Every relationship is work and requires compromise. 2. Cultivate self-awareness. Looking back at your past relationships can help you see romantic patterns that undermine your success. The awareness also helps you to make better choices going forward, including those you might have regretted and the unrealistic, infatuated feelings you have experienced. 3. Focus on emotional health. Working on your own self-definition is an important step toward healthy relationships. Give to yourself as you would a friend, and invest in your emotional resilience by talking to friends or a therapist about what you can do to become a strong and complete person alone. 4. Practice patience and perseverance. Building relationship takes time, effort, patience, and orientation. Enjoy the process and the random drops of unexpected uncertainties that are usually part of the journey, and stay the course. 5. Celebrate progress. Celebrate yourself for beginning to change patterns of relating that aren't healthy. Feeling competent encourages you to keep pushing towards a happy, lasting tie. Important concepts that help people understand unrequited love and explain the sometimes emotionally wrenching dynamic of romance are limerence and the friendzone. Limerence, originally described by psychologist Dorothy Tenoff in the 1970s, is a state of romantic obsession with a specific individual that includes a deep desire and idealization of the person, while simultaneously devaluing oneself. Limerence may result in victimization of the friendzoner, both the person undergoing the experience of unreciprocated romantic interest and the person in the friendship zone described as central to the modern dating vocabulary. Called the friend zone, this concept describes an intimate friendship where one person develops romantic feelings for the other but is relegated to friendship status by the person they desire romantically. Understanding limerence and its impact. This state of being, which is where it's at, has a name. It's called limerence, and it's the pinnacle of obsessive love, involving a strong emotional attachment, an unwavering adoration that, unlike simple attraction or even plain affinity, is often characterized by an overwhelming focus on the person, what is known as the limerent object, as well as unrealistic expectations and an unlikely disposition to gloss over flaws. In fact, some limerent people might view the object through rose-colored glasses and, sometimes, be conferred with nearly divine status. It should come as no surprise that the lingering idealization of a loved one can backfire. When a victim feels high, only to plunge into low soon after, this cycle might jeopardize any chance of physical fulfillment and even lead to substantial emotional distress, particularly when the sought-after hand does not tap back and the subject finds themselves permanently ensconced in the friend zone. People in the throes of limerence are more likely to accept friendship from their target, at least it's something, much to his or her detriment, perpetuating the state of one-sided love, and theirs, trapping them in deflating status while they are made to feel inept or inferior at best, or pathetic at worst. Learning how to manage emotional distress and setting boundaries are important steps to self-emancipation. Strategies for avoiding the friend zone and overcoming limerence. But even if limerence and the friend zone can't be cured, there are a number of concrete steps that an entrepot can take in order to preserve their mental health and pursue better relationships. 1. Avoid friendships with those you are romantically attracted. 2. If you are attracted to someone who doesn't want to be anything other than friends, is maintaining a friendship really what you should do? If limerence is involved, continuing a relationship in this way can keep you in a permanent state of limerent misery, and the unequal relationship may keep you from moving on. It may also endorse negative emotions, such as feelings of inadequacy or unworthiness, that underpin the limerence itself. Given that very few people sustain friendships with exes, continuing to be close friends with someone who clearly doesn't feel the same about you often means settling for emotional crumbs. Small, attentive gestures that might appear to be helpful or fulfilling, but in fact, aren't providing a substitute for the desire for someone to provide for your deeper emotional needs in a two-way, reciprocal way. For your long-term emotional health, you might need to step back. 2. Create distance from limerent objects. The best thing you can do is to distance yourself, emotionally and physically, from your LO. Limerent objects can be hard to erase from your mind when you're in frequent contact, or when your paths keep crossing, or when you see their profile on your social media feed. Losing exposure to the LO, revoking friend requests, going on a social media hiatus, making your profiles private, acknowledging and respecting social boundaries might help you break the obsession and reduce your effective investment. The more distance you can put between yourself and a limerent object, the more likely it is that you'll shift the focus from them to you and your own emotional well-being. This shift can set the stage for regaining control of your own thoughts and feelings and allowing yourself to move on. 3. Avoid relationships with unavailable partners. The second factor comes into play once you've developed limerence. Moving past limerence or staying out of the friend zone can be sabotaged by falling for someone who is not interested or merely unavailable to return your feelings. Limerence can blind us to a partner's reality, causing us to romanticize someone who has limited emotional or physical availability. And the act of chasing people and pushing against people's defenses only drives them further within behind their emotional walls. Unrequited love becomes refueled, and we stumble into deeper disappointment. Being able to recognize the signs of an emotionally unavailable partner can help you get out of relationships before you waste time and energy on people that will never be able to give you the opportunities and emotional experiences you deserve. Rather than putting in work with someone you aren't sure your partner really wants, use that energy and focus on someone who might actually be a better match for you down the line. Embracing less intense relationships. Those suffering through limerence and its cycle of romantic obsession might benefit from thinking about how to pursue less intense relationships, or how to stabilize whatever couple relationship they have attained, such that it doesn't rise and fall with the timing of an inexorable romantic spell. so that it becomes a relationship built on the solid ground of mutual respect, shared values, and emotional reciprocity, rather than a burst of infatuation. 1. Consider a period of singleness. It might also give you the breathing space that you need to figure out why you're so drawn toward the intense or charismatic or otherwise wrong type, and to start building a healthier sense of yourself. If all this baby-making talk has left you thinking that staying single might be a good idea, that's great too. You can cultivate emotional resilience when you're on your own, becoming less prone to the ups and downs of limerence. When you feel equipped to try to find someone again, a more balanced and potentially more durable connection can come about if you're able to explore it with greater openness than just raw infatuation. 2. Be open to less intense partners. Sustained attraction is nice, but sometimes it takes time to get a spark. Desiring and wanting future connection with someone who does not hit you with churning, soul-clutching desire at first sight might lead to a profound and richly rewarding relationship. Taking a chance with someone who is not fervently seized on allows the opportunity to develop a richer emotional connection and deeper respect.